Okay, good evening, Cliffwood friends. My name is Mark Van Horn, and I'm the proud principal at Cliffwood School. I'd like to take a moment to welcome you all to our reopening parent information session. First, I hope that all of our students had a wonderful summer, and please know that I and our whole staff can't wait to see you back in school again. I'd like to wish a special welcome to all of our new Cliffwood students and their families. We love our school, and I hope that you will too. I'm going to take about the next half hour to go over some important information about our school's reopening plan. As a parent myself of 3 school-aged kids, I can understand what a stressful time this is. And part of my job is to reduce that stress and get our students and their parents too ready for a great school year. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. And you should be able to see my screen now, my presentation. So first, we are recording this. If you have any questions, please be sure to use the chat feature on the right-hand side of the screen. If somebody that you know can't view the session tonight, again, we are recording this and we'll post it to the website. This presentation, along with the chat questions and our answers eventually, will be posted to the website as well. Let me walk you through the agenda for the topics that we're going to cover tonight. First and foremost, we're going to cover health and safety. Then we're going to go into some routines and procedures, learning and instruction, and last, some additional information that will help us get off to a great school start. All right, so let's dive right in. Section 1, health and safety. All right, it's very important that everyone in our school community understand that health and safety are our top priority. And this focus is going to drive our decision-making and our procedures as we start this school year. Some input from the Department of Health. That guidance document stresses a few things, and the things that we're going to focus on are below. Limiting the size of gatherings or the number of persons in a space. Safe spacing between persons. Limit traveling whenever possible, and not sharing objects whenever possible. So you're going to hear those recurring themes come up again and again throughout this presentation. All right, first one here is a biggie, folks. Wearing masks is required for all students and staff. All right, I'm going to say that again just to stress that point. Wearing masks is required for all of our students and all of our staff. And you'll see an asterisk next to that. I'll get to that in a moment. The expectation is that masks are worn door to door. So from the moment that the child leaves the house to walk to the bus stop until they get home, all right, that they're wearing a mask or a face covering. Here's that asterisk. Unless a child or an adult has an approved face covering accommodation. All right. So there are certain individuals who can receive a face covering accommodation, but this is very important. The accommodation form must be completed by the child's physician. You can contact our school nurse, Nurse Caldwell, at the email address that I put there to get a copy of the form. Please note, folks, that a face covering accommodation requires an IEP or 504 meeting in order to form that plan. And while that is in the works, all right, the child must wear, or the adult must wear the mask or face covering to school or stay home until an accommodation is granted. Very important. Continuing with health and safety. You probably know by now that our Board of Education approved an updated version of the reopening plan at the August 5th meeting. Part of that plan includes a reduced number of students attending at least to start the school year. So here's what we're going to do. Grades that will be attending in the hybrid model are kindergarten and first. All right. Grades second and third will be starting full remote. All right, so let me say that again. This information's already been out, but it's very important that everybody understand. The grades that are starting with the hybrid model are kindergarten and first, while second and third will be starting full remote. Certain populations may be attending 5 days a week in person, and those special populations are some of our self-contained settings, ESL, and also homeless. The district will evaluate and adjust those numbers as far as which grades are coming into the hybrid model versus full remote per schedule that has been set. All right, this is a very important one, folks, so I'll try and be as clear as I can. All parents and guardians must complete a self-screening form for their child each day before the child arrives to school. All right. There's going to be a self-screening form that must be submitted daily before a child is admitted into the school. We are asking that all parents or guardians complete this form by 8 a.m. This is going to give our office staff time to print out these forms as far as which students have submitted them and get them to our staff who are going to be at our entrances to check when the kids arrive to the building. All right, in the presentation rather, I provided a link to the district self-screening form, so you can check that out a little bit later. That may be changing to an app in the future to make things a little bit easier, a little bit quicker for our families. I'll keep you all updated on that. All right. It's important to note that all staff must complete the same form as well. All right. This form, I put it in blue, I highlighted it. This form is required for entry into the school building. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit later when we talk about procedures. It's also important to know that if your child should test positive for COVID, or you suspect that he or she was exposed, to please contact our school nurse, Mrs. Caldwell. All right, staying in that health and safety vein, movement within the buildings has been significantly reduced. All right, students will not be traveling between rooms for different classes. In the past, kids got up out of their room. They went to their specials classes, whether it be art, music, computers, library, what have you. They went to the cafeteria. They went to the gymnasium for PE class. That will not be happening. So for the time that the students, talking about the hybrid learners, talking about our in-person 5 days a week learners, they will be staying in their classroom for the duration of the time that they're there. Staying in that safety idea, hallways are now one directional only. So our kids will be moving. The good thing about Cliffwood is it's kind of shaped like a big square, so you can't get lost, and it's like a big loop, but they're going to be one direction only for our students and our staff safety. And we have a couple of changes to transportation that I'd like to touch on. If your child is a bus rider, there is going to be increased distancing between bus seats, which amounts to fewer riders. All right, there's going to be a significantly smaller number of riders using the bus this year compared to previous years. There will be an adult aide on each bus to make sure that these safety guidelines are being, or safety rules are being followed. All riders on the bus must wear their masks. That means students, and that also means adults. They're going to be wearing their masks. And this is an important one, especially for the grown-ups who take their kids to the bus stops. Anybody at the bus stop must be wearing a mask. So that includes adults and other children who may be siblings or what have you. So anybody at a bus stop must wear a mask. All right, our classrooms have been reconfigured, folks. I'm going to show you a picture a little bit later as far as what a typical classroom looks like. It could be a little bit jarring, but please, I keep going back to that same first bullet that I put out there. Health and safety is the top priority. We're going to be following the guidance as far as not sharing materials goes whenever possible. So one thing that we teach, I mean, it's something that we actually teach in the youngest grades, is about sharing. And we share a lot, right? We share markers, we share crayons, we share pencils, we share all kinds of stuff. That's going to be a little bit different this year for sure. But we're going to try and not share materials. We are not going to be using cubbies or closets. So if you've been in our school before, in some of our classrooms, especially for the younger guys and girls, we have cubbies. We're not going to be using those for storing materials. And in the upper grades, we have closets where we hang up our jackets and our backpacks and put all of our belongings, which are usually soft and fabric. We put them pretty much on top of each other's in those spaces. We're not going to be using those. Instead, Student belongings will be kept in backpacks on the child's chair. All right, so jackets will be hung on the backs of the chairs, backpacks will be hung on the backs of the chairs. And that's important that they have a backpack because items are going to be taken to and from school daily. All right, so everything that the child brings to school goes home with that learner at the end of the day. Keeping in that, we're going to be doing that hybrid model where kids are in school for 2 days, and then we have a Wednesday where everybody is virtual. Or when I say everybody, I mean most of our learners are virtual. And then we have a new group of learners coming in on Thursday and Friday. They're going to be using those same desks. Obviously, they're going to be thoroughly cleaned in between Tuesday and Thursday. But it's very important that all items are taken home with the child at the end of each school day. We're not going to be using our reading carpets. If you've been in Cliffwood before, you know that each classroom has a rainbow colored reading rug, typically in the front of the room where we do a lot of our work. Those have been removed temporarily. So we do a lot of working in close proximity to each other. In the past, we read knee to knee, elbow to elbow, partner reading, things like that. That's going to be a little bit different. That's on hold for right now. And kids are going to be working at their desks, in their chairs, spread safely apart. All right. Common water fountains are off limits. Students instead may bring their own water bottle, and I'm stressing water only, please, with them to have a drink. We do have certain water fountains that are the bottle filler type. We have 2 of those in the buildings. So if you have a large water bottle like I do right here, I like to drink a lot of water, you can fill it up there, but we're asking that it's water only, please. All right. And lastly, there's going to be a schedule for bathrooms. And there's also going to be a schedule for cleaning the bathrooms at different points throughout the day. So a little bit more formal, a little bit more rigid than we've been in the past. Please know, I know it's a question that I get from parents a lot. If your child ever has an emergency, they need to use the restroom or something like that, that's obviously going to be allowed. Okay. All right. And this is a real question, and it's a fine question, and I know that it's going to come up, so I'd like to address it now. Despite all of these health and safety safeguards that we've put into place, well, what happens if a child or a staff member should test positive for COVID? That's a complicated answer because there's different levels of response. If somebody should test positive for COVID who attends our school, whether they be a child or an adult, that information is given to the local health department, which is the county health department. And the county health department will work in conjunction with our school district to create a plan, a collaborative plan, as far as what next steps go. So there is not a cut and dried, there's not a plain stock answer for what happens. It all depends on contact tracing, which is done by the county health department. They would come in, they would conduct contact tracing, find out exactly who was or may have been exposed to that person who tested positive, and then build a plan based off of that information that they receive, and we would go from there. So I put a link in there for some additional guidance, so you can read that a little bit later, that comes from the health department as far as steps that can be taken. Okay, moving right along here to section 2. Routines and procedures. So school is built on routines, folks. I mean, it's great for the adults, it's great for kids, but some of these routines are going to be slightly different than in the past. All right. First and foremost, arrival and dismissal. Arrival and dismissal is going to look a bit different compared to past years. I'll be upfront with you about that. We are going to be using additional entry and exit locations, both for bus riders and for our walkers. All right. Our school is kind of split about 50-50 as far as walkers go versus bus riders. Many of our Cliffwood families who've had kids in the building for the past few years, they kind of know which doors are for which grades as far as entering the building, as far as dismissal at the end of the day. Those door numbers are going to change a little bit, so that's going to take some getting used to. entry into the school each day may take a little longer, and I'm going to talk about why. So we typically ring the bell at 9:10, and we have arrival from 9:10 to 9:20, and homeroom starts at 9:20. By 9:20, our students should be in their classes. It's going to take a little bit longer than this year. I was talking a few slides ago about completing the self-screening form. So that's very important, whether it's done via an app or Google form like we're using right now for our staff. That is required, and I'm asking our families, our school families, to complete that by 8 o'clock in the morning each day. If we do not have that information on our sheets at the doors, and we're going to have staff members at each door checking these to make sure that the children and their parents have completed that screening form. If we do not have that form, I'm very sorry, but the child cannot come into the building. So that's I can't emphasize that enough, folks. So that's for our bus riders, and that's also for our walkers. Again, I highlighted here, masks are required for all persons on campus. So we typically have about half of our students are walkers each day. So they usually come with a grown-up or with them, and they bring them to the door, they see them into the door, and then they usually take off. Those grown-ups who are accompanying our students must have a mask if they are on campus. That's a must. All right. And lastly, arrival and dismissal involves a lot of people. All right. And it is the responsibility of all adults to practice safe social distancing. So my message to all of our Cliffwood friends and all of our grown-ups is that we need to model the safe behavior that we're trying to teach to the kids. So I'm asking all of our grown-ups to practice safe social distancing when they're on our campus. I know it's tough. You want to talk to friends. Grown-ups want to talk to other grown-ups. They want to congregate. They want to do all those types of things. But we need to model the safe behavior that we want to see. All right. The flag salute is going to happen each day for all students. That may seem that may seem simple, but that includes our friends who are learning remotely. So that includes our learners who are the hybrid kids who are on their 3 days that they're not in school each week, or our full remote students. So the flag salute, we're going to try and mimic or try and do school, I should say, as normal as possible. That's going to be our goal as educators this year, is to make school feel as normal as possible. Attendance will be taken daily, both in person, obviously, and also remote. So attendance is important. All right, we take daily attendance during homework, during homeroom every day in school, and we're going to continue that practice this year for our students who are working from home or not in the building. The expectation is that students participate in lessons as if this were regular school. So that's our expectation. If your child, for some reason, needs to be absent or miss a particular lesson throughout the day, whether it be a whole group or a small group Google Meet, if they're going to miss, we're going to ask that grown-ups handle that the exact same way that you would handle that in a normal school year. You would notify the teacher that there's a reason for an absence and that your child is not going to be present for that lesson. We're going to ask that you follow those same steps. And what we want to do is we want to make school look, feel, we want to instruct our young people as best as we can for as long as we can each day, and really stress learning this year, make it feel as real as possible, regardless of the setting that the child is in. All right. Continuing with routines. Food is going to be a big change, folks. Food is going to be significantly different than in past years. Most students will not be eating meals in the school building. Okay, we are using a 4-hour session. All right, for almost all of our learners, except for those special populations that I spoke about before. That means that school starts at 9:20, as I mentioned, and school gets out at 1:15. same as the 4-hour session that we've always had. All right, the start and end times have not changed, but it's a 4-hour session for our hybrid learners as far as the ones that are in the building. So students who order lunch, it'll be grab and go style for most. So it'll be take your lunch with you on the way out the door. They'll be handed out at dismissal, or lunch or any meals can be picked up at 2 different distribution centers. And I'll get into that in a bit. For our friends who are staying full day, 5 days a week, meals will be served, but the meals will be served and lunch will be eaten in the classroom. So we'll not be using the cafeteria. All right. A couple of changes here. Meals, as far as breakfast and lunch, this is very important, must be ordered 1 week in advance. And that order form is going to be located on the district website. So the link is not up yet. So if you go to look for it, it's not up yet. It will be up by the time we start. But meals, breakfast and lunch must be ordered 1 week in advance. So our families will have access to the menu, the weekly menu, actually it's a monthly menu. And you'll be able to order breakfast or lunch 1 week in advance. Those distribution sites that I was talking about before, where lunch meals are going to be made available, are the high school and the middle school. So those are going to be our distribution sites. A lot of our students are electing for full remote. Nearly half of our students, between about a third of our students, a little bit more than that, are electing for full remote. And that's perfectly fine. They have a right to meals too, okay? Those meals must be picked up at the 2 sites that I just mentioned. And breakfasts are also going to be available, but we're not going to be serving breakfast in the school like we normally do. Instead, the plan for right now is that breakfast is going to be made available on Wednesdays for the next Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and the following Wednesday. So those breakfasts are going to be made available on Wednesdays at one of the 2 distribution sites. Students are, listen, we realize that these are little kids and 4 hours is a long time for them. So 1 small snack is going to be allowed per day. So there is going to be a time in the day when students are going to be able to have a small snack. And I already talked about that water bottle that they can also have. Okay. Food services is going to be sharing out a more detailed plan fairly soon. So be on the lookout for that. Okay. All right. Well, we come to school for learning, right? We come to school for a bunch of things, but one of the main things is learning for sure. So let's dive into section 3, learning and instruction. All right. So this might shock you a little bit. This is a picture of a typical Cliffwood classroom as it is configured right now. All right. This classroom has 9 desks and 9 chairs spaced 6 feet apart. And that's a first grade classroom right now. That's a real picture I took with my phone a couple of days ago. But that's how we're going to operate for now. This doesn't mean forever, but this means for now, that's how classrooms are going to look. All right. And again, I keep going back to that top priority for us. It's health and safety. Your child and our staff's health and safety are our top priority. And that's the reason for that classroom setup. Continuing with learning and instruction. There are 3 different models for our students to attend school this year. So we have students that are hybrid. All right. And hybrid, what does hybrid mean? Hybrid means that you're coming 2 days a week based on the first letter in your last name, that determines the days that you're coming. And it's a 4-hour session. We have full remote, which means that you're not coming into the building at all. You're going to be instructed remotely all 5 days a week. And we have, for special populations, in person 5 days a week, full day instruction. Okay. For all models, I said this before, school will reflect a full day schedule as best as possible. So that's my goal. That's my pledge to you, is that we're going to make school the absolute best that it can be for our kids and their learning this year. So let's dive in a little bit more closely to each one of these models. All right, for the hybrid model. All right, this came out of the board meeting from August 5th. K and First are starting hybrid. second and third are starting full remote, but planned for hybrid on October 5th for those families who elected for hybrid. All right. We're forming two cohorts of students. All right. So we have cohort 1 has the last names A through K, and that cohort attends on Mondays and Tuesdays. Last names L through Z, that cohort attends on Thursdays and Fridays. Obviously, the days that you're not attending, you're doing virtual learning. All right. Everybody is going to do virtual learning. Everybody except for those couple of special populations that I'd spoken about before. Everybody's going to be doing virtual learning on Wednesdays for all the hybrid kids. For hybrid, it's the same schedule as far as arrival goes as in the past. We arrive at 9:10. We start homeroom at 9:20. Dismissal is at 1:20 for the kids who are attending. Their dismissal is at 1:20, and then we're going to have they're going to have to ride the bus home, or they're going to have to walk home, or they're going to have to ride with a grown-up home in a car, and then we're going to give time for lunch and recess right after that. So we're going to give our kids a break. We're going to give our teachers are going to take a break, and everybody's going to have time for lunch and some recess to stretch your legs and to re-energize and get ready for afternoon learning. So some folks have emailed me. They said, you know what, Mr. Van Horn, hybrid, I understand it's 4-hour sessions, so it's only half days. No, it's just like regular school. So we're going to do the 4 hours of in-person learning on the days that you're attending, and then we have time for travel to home or wherever, and then we have lunch and recess, and then we get back into our learning after that. So learning resumes after that break, and then we'll conclude at 3:35. So it's a full day. It's a full day. It's 4 hours in person in the building for our hybrid friends, but it's a full day's worth of learning. All right. What are we doing the 4 hours that they're in the building? Okay, we are really maximizing instruction while they're in the building. So for our friends who are in for the hybrid model, when they're in school for those 4 hours, all right, they're going to be in their classroom with their homeroom teacher, focusing on the core subjects. So that means reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. That's the work that they're going to be doing for those 4 hours in their regular homeroom. Specials will take place on the days, this is for our hybrid friends, specials will take place on the days when they are not in school. So kids are still going to get phys ed, health, library for our K and 1, Spanish for our 2nd and 3rd grade, art, music, but that's going to be happening virtually, and that's going to be happening on the days when they are not in school. And each afternoon, we're going to have a check-in time for our teachers to check in with our students who are in the cohort that is not attending that day. So for instance, if your child's last name is A through K, they might be in the school on a Monday, and the other learners with the different last names, they'll be at home, they'll be doing their virtual learning. Your homeroom teacher will check in with those learners, see if they have any questions, see if they're struggling with any topics in the afternoon each day. Right. Another model that we have is our full remote model. This is how we have parents who chose this model for their students. It's available for all students, K through 3. But for right now, until the 5th at least of October, all of 2nd and 3rd, except for our special populations, are going to be starting in the full remote model. I keep going back, I keep stressing that learning is going to try and look as much like regular school as possible. Learning is going to start at 9:20 each day. Students and their remote teacher will follow a typical day schedule. So that's important. That's important that we're trying to establish those routines, get back to some sense of normalcy that we had before March 13th in the spring. All right, so students and their remote teacher are going to follow a typical day schedule. All right, there will be a break in the middle of the day built in for the child and the staff member to eat lunch. And there will also be a time in there for recess or for the child to play, to stretch his or her legs. Specials will be happening. Specials classes that I just mentioned before will be happening at different times during the day. and learning is set to conclude at 3:35. So again, it's remote, it's not in the building, but it's a full day worth of instruction with a teacher. And that teacher for right now is a remote homeroom teacher. So that teacher will be able to instruct your child, their class for the full day without worrying about other students who may be in the building. So right now what we have is we have teachers who are dedicated for the kids in the class, in the school physically, and we have teachers who are doing full remote sections. Okay. And again, if you're in second or third, you're starting full remote regardless through October 5th at least. It's very important. There's a small number of students. It's important that we share this. There's a small number of students who may have a teacher from another school. So if you're in a full remote setting, in a full remote homeroom, some of our teachers are teaching students from different schools, talking about ourselves here at Cliffwood, Strathmore, or Ravine Drive, together in a group mixed. For our in-person friends, these are our special populations that can attend 5 days a week. Those again are our self-contained special education settings, our ESL learners, and also homeless students. They are going to follow a typical schedule similar to past years. All right, arrival at 9:10. We start our learning at 9:20. We break for lunch, which will be in the classroom. That's a little bit different. We will have recess, and then we will dismiss at 3:35. That's our normal dismissal time. All right, so that's for our in-person friends. A couple of different things here, a couple more points about learning and instruction. Work will be graded. All right, I know that's unlike the spring. We will be following district grading policies. So district grading policies will be followed by all teachers. So that's very dissimilar from the spring. Teachers will be flexible as always, and I put that in there. Our teachers have always been flexible. If circumstances arise and there's a reason why your child could not get a certain project or an assignment done in a particular amount of time, please reach out to the teacher. That teacher is going to be flexible like they always are. And they'll be handled by the teacher or myself on a case-by-case basis. Okay. It's important to reach out to your child's teacher. If there's an issue where your child, again, I went back before, if there's a reason why your child's not going to be able to participate in the live Google Meet that day, or any number of things, it's very important that you stay connected to your child's teacher, that you communicate regularly. That's going to set your child up for success, set them up for a great school year. All right. K and first grades will continue to use the Seesaw platform for online instruction. Second and third grades will continue to use the Google Classroom platform. We know that we have some new parents to Cliffwood School, especially our kindergarten folks. So there is going to be in the very near future a parent workshop on Seesaw. All right, so Seesaw is the platform for online instruction for our youngest learners. Be on the lookout. I'll share it out as soon as I have the details. There is going to be a parent workshop for Seesaw, so stay tuned for that. We are in a technology-driven world here, folks. All students need a device, a Chromebook, a laptop, or a desktop computer if they're working at home. Those will all be fine. What won't be fine is an iPad or a tablet. I know my own kids, they have Kindles or Kindle Fires at home. That is not sufficient to get all the work done that we need to get done on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to talk about how you get one of those devices from us in a tiny bit. Our devices are going to travel back and forth to school each day, so they need to be charged. I didn't write that in the slideshow, but I'm saying it now. Devices, Chromebooks, they go back and forth to school each day. We're going to make sure that our students are very proficient at using their Chromebooks, and it will happen quick. Our kids are quick learners, but they're to bring their Chromebook to and from school if they're hybrid each day. We ask that they bring the chargers too, because sometimes we forget to charge at home. We don't have whatever chargers we had in the building, we're going to give to you, or we've already given out in the spring. So we don't have spare chargers in the building. So the charger comes in the backpack as well. Even our youngest learners, this might shock you, but we're even giving Chromebooks out or asking to bring in for our K and our first grade learners. All right, so we have a lot of Chromebooks still out, from about 150 of them still out, borrowed from March. So those students and their families should still have those devices. And if you don't have a device or you absolutely need a Chromebook, there are two ways to get it. First is we are going to be having a Chromebook distribution for Cliffwood students only on next Wednesday, September 2nd at 4 o'clock, between 4 and 8 in our cafeteria. All right, so parents are going to socially distance, stay safe, form lines on the blacktop behind the school. This is just kind of like how we did in the spring, folks. So that's going to be next Wednesday, the 2nd. After that, or if you cannot attend that evening, there's an online technology request form. I put a link to that in the presentation. I'll make that available in the next day or so. When I make this presentation available, you'll be able to click on that link. Right now, it's on the district website, and you can schedule an appointment to pick up a Chromebook, to sign one out with one of our secretaries in the main office. All right, so there's two different ways to get a Chromebook if you absolutely need one. We are asking that you take a Chromebook only if you need it. You do not have enough for every single learner. So if you have a device at home that'll work for your young person, we ask that you use that, because we do not have enough for everybody. All right. And also, when you're talking about elementary school, there's things that kids need as far as workbooks go, journals, the individual, the whiteboard slates, special writing paper for different grades like kindergarten. We are going to make those instructional materials available for parents and families to pick up. So we're going to be I'll be sending that information out to you in the next day or so, when you can pick up a packet for those instructional materials from our school. So be on the lookout for that as well. All right. Important information here about the pathways, right? So we've got these different models or pathways. We've got hybrid, we've got full remote, we've got in-person 5 days a week. Children can move, parents can request for children to move or change pathways, but there are certain steps. There are certain procedures that need to be followed. All right, so I'm going to detail those for you right now. If your child starts off the year in hybrid or in person, all right, so they're going to school in the hybrid model, or they're in person 5 days a week, and you elect, you want to switch it to full remote, that's perfectly fine. The governor said that anybody can go to full remote at any time. There's an online form that you would fill out. All right, we're going to put that on Cliffwood's page website when it's ready. There's an online form that you fill out, and that change can take 48 hours. All right, what's going to have to happen is your child will be moved from one homeroom into a full virtual homeroom, and then we'll be set up and ready to go, but that change can take up to 48 hours. That switch, talking about moving to full remote, can happen at any time during the school year. If your child is in a full remote setting and wants to move to the hybrid model, so you've been doing full remote, you've been doing 5 days outside of the school, you want to switch to the hybrid model after the school year starts, okay, notify the principal, myself, right? Notify me, send me an email, give me a phone call, talk to me, and we're going to make that switch happen for you. But those switches, talking about moving back into the school, will happen at the marking period breaks. All right. We ask that you provide 2 weeks of notice before, so that we can plan and that we can get those classes exactly ready for the marking period, for the new marking period when it starts. Parents and guardians must understand that their child's teacher may change during the year, especially if we're talking about moving between the pathways. All right, as we take certain homerooms, certain teachers, and make them either full remote or hybrid. All right, kids' homeroom teachers may change at points during the school year, particularly if you're electing to switch the pathway that they're on. All right, and lastly, just some other bits of important information. The parent portal will open to families on Monday, August 31st. All right, so that was originally set for Thursday, tomorrow, the 27th. The parent portal is now opening to all families in our district, not just Cliffwood, all families in our district. That is happening on Monday, August 31st. So that is a change. I highlighted that in blue. It was set for tomorrow, the 27th. It is now Monday, the 31st. On that time, on that date, when the portal goes live, parents and guardians are going to be able to see their child's teacher at that time. All right. And if you should have any portal issues at all right, please make sure to contact our main office. We have the best secretaries in the district, I feel, and either Miss Helen or Miss Nadine will be happy to help you get that portal information so that you can get logged on if you have any problems. I listed our school's main office phone number there, 732-705-5600. That's the Cliffwood main office. And this is important. This is great, I think. Orientation meetings are going to be held with all homeroom teachers this year. So typically we do orientation for kindergarten only. We usually do it in person, but orientation this year can't be in person. So we're going to be doing it virtually, but it's going to be live. It's going to be a Google Meet, and it's going to be on Thursday, September 3rd at 10 a.m. for every homeroom teacher. So this is a chance for grown-ups at home and also for the children to meet their child's teacher, learn about their child's teacher, learn about the class, get into more detail about the particular class, the grade, than I'm able to get into in something that's more general like this evening. That's going to be on Thursday, the 10th. Eventually, I'll be sharing out a document in the next few days where it'll have a link to every child's teacher and when their live Google Meet will be. All right, so it'll have the link for you to click on to go to that. So it's not kindergarten like it's just been in past years. This is a great opportunity for you to meet the teacher, even though it's virtual, to meet the teacher before the school year starts. And it's especially important, I think, for our full remote learners. So I encourage you, if you can. I realize some people are working, but it's 10 o'clock in the morning on a weekday. I get that, but that's very important, these orientation meetings. It's going to be for every single homeroom teacher. It's going to be live. It's going to be a chance for about 30 minutes for you to ask questions, learn about the teacher, learn about the programs, learn about the routines. Very beneficial if you can attend. So that's what I have. I know that I went pretty quickly, so this is recorded. You'll be able to view this to go back over it. Also, I saw it's hard to look at the chat and to answer questions when you're doing this live. But if you put questions in the chat, I'm going to be answering those questions and pasting my answers to those questions on the Cliffwood homepage in the next few days. I want to take a minute. I just want to thank you all for taking the time out of your evening to view tonight's session. I want to wish all of our students, whether you're doing hybrid, whether you're doing full remote, whether you're doing in-person, an absolutely awesome school year. And lastly, I hope that everyone in our school community stays safe, stays healthy, and most of all, stays Cliffwood proud. All right. Have a great night. I'll be seeing you all. Take care.